We're going to be joined by journalist Javed Rana. He's from the Pakistani capital to shed light on the latest developments from the Israeli genocide in Gaza. Good to see you, Javed. Now, thousands of people have converged in Istanbul today to show their support for Palestinians who have been massacred in the Israeli genocide. What message is this rally giving to the Israeli government and Western nations who have failed to support the Palestinian cause?
I think if one has to pick up some silver lining in the overall tragedy that exists in the Middle East, with particular focus in the occupied Gaza, that is about the scale of this public support that the Palestinian cause enjoy right now. It's not just confined to the Istanbul. It's not just confined to on the streets of the Turkey. It's basically it is a cause which has spread all over the world. People have realized one thing, that this all Holocaust nonsensical propaganda, that everything that goes against the apartheid state that is propagated as something as anti-Semitic. I think this propaganda, this myth has been blown up. And if you look at the broader picture that exists in the Middle East and also in the Muslim countries, I think the response from the Turkey on the streets of the Turkey, that has turned out to be unprecedented, because I have not seen this number of the people who have come on the streets on this particular cause in any other Muslim country. This is happening only in Turkey. Yes, there has been protests in Pakistan. There have been tens of thousands of people coming on the roads in Pakistan. Yes, but I think the frequency with which the people in the Turkey have come out on the roads to support Palestinian cause, I think that is unprecedented, at least among the Muslim countries. This has not happened. So this is sending a clear message to the apartheid structure in the occupied Palestine, that you cannot take away the voices of the Muslims, because one after the other, apartheid state Israel has been after the Muslim countries. They have already occupied the parts of the southern Lebanon after introducing its killing machine on the Lebanese people, and then also in the northern Gaza is effectively under the occupation of apartheid state, and then 20,000 square kilometers of Syria is under the occupation of the apartheid state. So in that context, the message that the apartheid state is trying to give to the Muslim countries: we are after you. One after the other, we are after you. And that message is being received with a sense of fear in Arab Muslim countries, with particular focus among the Arab countries. At that particular point of time, this very protest in Istanbul, with tens of thousands of the people chanting slogan against the apartheid structure in the occupied Palestine, sends a clear message that you cannot suppress the voices of the people. Voices of the people, this does matter. Turkey's policy has been very pragmatic. President Tayyip Erdogan has been speaking against this tragedy in a manner that no other Muslim leader has spoken. At the same time, we have to recall, is also a bitter fact, that when there was OIC summit, Turkey, along with some other countries, they came up with the proposals: let there be a trade blockage of apartheid state. Let's do it together. But I think those voices were not heard. More particularly, these are most of the Arab countries who are being led by Saudi Arabia. I think in these Arab countries, there is no democracy. People cannot come out on the streets, particularly in Saudi Arabia. There have been protests in Jordan, but again, by and large, those voices have been suppressed, because it's a dual kind of a double fear that these Arab North feel right now. They think that with the change of guard in Damascus, there could be possibly spillover effects of Arab Spring into the bordering region of these Arab states. So they are not very happy with the change of guard in Damascus, partly, and they don't want violence in Gaza, but at the same time, they want to make it sure that the Hamas is eliminated altogether. And this is a, frankly speaking, a nonsensical approach, because Hamas is an ideology which is deeply embedded in Islam. So people cannot basically move away from that ideology. And this is unprecedented, that a 2 million, 2.4 million population in occupied Gaza, the kind of the resistance they have shown, I don't recall that similar resistance happened, at least in the modern history. It did not happen. And they don't have the weapons, they don't have the supply line, they've been cornered, they don't have the support from any neighboring countries. Whatever this little support was coming from Iran, that has been now stopped, blocked, because of a change of guard in Damascus. So Palestinians are on their own. And nonetheless, they are still showing a clear signs of resistance and resilience among the people. And I think this is extremely important, that with today's protest, at least some kind of maybe it's a very soft message has gone to the Palestinian people, that though the Muslim governments have not been able to come up with a kind of the support the Palestinians really deserved, nonetheless, the people in the Muslim countries, particularly in the Turkey, which is spearheading, whatever the amount of the resilience, the kind of the demonstration that we've seen, Turkey is heading it. And this is not obviously first time. There have been frequent protests in Turkey, one after the other. And this one protest has its uniqueness, and that is being that it has happened on the very first day of the new year, sending a clear message that like in the past, people in the Turkey are not going to desert the cause of the Palestinian. Apparently, people feel deflated, they feel disappointed, because literally there is no support for the Palestinians. We Muslims and the people in the world, everybody, literally, we are letting apartheid state to kill them. We are letting the Palestinian to die with the freeze. They are being frozen to death, and the entire hospital, the medical care infrastructure has almost been destroyed. I don't think Israel has left any university, college, and school unharmed. So the education system has already been destroyed. Along with media workers and journalists, nearly 200 journalists have been killed in Gaza. So I think it's hardly very few channels who are reporting from the spot, because Israel is silencing every voice from the occupied Gaza. Nonetheless, people know what is happening in Gaza. In that context, I think whatever is happening on the streets of the Turkey, I think this does matter, and this also set a precedent for the other Muslim countries, for the NGOs, the social organization, that they must take a cue from the people of Turkey, and they should hold similar protests. This is the time when people feel deflated, they feel disappointed because they have not been able to help Palestinians in a manner they really deserve, but at least they can send a message, like people in Turkey, that they are with them, because this is an extraordinary situation in the occupied Gaza, where almost, say, 80 to 90% residential infrastructure has been destroyed. There is no sewage, there is no drinking water, there are no blankets, people have no shelter, and people are literally dying. And if somebody is injured in Israel's terrorist attack, we are basically leaving them to die, because Israel has been killing doctors, all the associated staff members, the doctors are being detained. So everybody who speaks against Israel, they consider that they are a member of Hamas. So anyways, what we call it as something is better than nothing. At least there is some kind of a message being sent to the apartheid state, at least from the Turkey, that we have not forgotten about the cause of the Palestine.
Now, Israel has systematically dismantled the healthcare structure in the occupied Gaza Strip. The Kamal Adwan Hospital, which was one of the last functioning hospitals, has also been destroyed. What are the obstacles that are now being faced by international organizations in providing essential humanitarian aid?
I've heard the UN agency, they are saying it's a kind of a helplessness situation. And basically, they're calling for sanctions against Israel. And they have not been able to do anything. It is unprecedented that even the UN agencies, they have been targeted. Hundreds of their staff members have been killed, injured. Their infrastructure has been destroyed. So, and then the head of this particular hospital you have referred about, he was detained. And he was sent in a torture cell, which is a very notorious, where people are tortured to death. And now, as we speak, there are reports that he's being tortured. Again, the suspicion is that he's a member of the Hamas. This is the nonsensical strategy that Israel has been pursuing right from the day one. But one thing is very important, which is worth noting, that the doctors have opted to stay inside an already destroyed hospital. They did not abandon their patients. The cost of which was that the doctors were arrested, the head of the doctor was arrested, but they turned out to be so much true to their cause. Again, this is unprecedented. I don't see that similar thing happening in the Ukraine. But again, the bigger question is that there is a institutionalized hypocrisy that is in place, not only among the Muslim countries, with the particular reference to the Arab North, but more particularly in the Europe, which propagates the freedom of expression, which propagate the freedom of association. But when it comes to Palestinian cause, that is where they stand exposed, because that is where the apartheid state enjoys kind of immunity that is unprecedented. I mean, Americans talk about that the international order has been threatened. What has led to threaten that international order? It is the apartheid state Israel, because it has been committing genocide in the Gaza. Nonetheless, it enjoys impunity. The International Criminal Court, ICC, has issued an orders for the arrest of Prime Minister Netanyahu and his former defense minister. These orders cannot be implemented by the Americans and many of the European countries, because it is Israel which enjoys an impunity. And then they talk about that Russia is threatening the international order. No, it is the Israel which has effectively threatened that so-called international order. And because they allow the killing of the Muslims anywhere in the world. It's not just in Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Libya. You talk about anything, anywhere in the world. Systematically over the period of the time, the blood of Muslims is cheap. And the bigger picture is essentially they project themselves, these Europeans project themselves that they stand for all kind of freedom of speech, something I early on explained. But again, when it comes to the Palestinian cause, even the demonstrations in the European countries, they are banned. People have been detained there. So again, it really, I mean, this is basically a kind of a mystery. People have a lot of information about it, part of which has already been leaked, that the Mossad has been basically blackmailing anybody who matters in the governance in the Europe and in the USA. They have their dirty videos of these MPs, these leaders, and they would not speak against the apartheid state. They would not change their policy against the apartheid state. But one thing which is a silver lining, that during last 1.5 years, we have seen that there have been more than 400 attacks against the Jewish population. And that was in reaction to the genocide being committed in Gaza. Not every member of the Jewish community is responsible for that. But Israel, over the period of the time, has projected itself that anybody who speaks against the genocide, it is anti-Semitic. So people feel very much offended. And that is why whosoever they see, no matter they are involved in the killing of Muslims in Gaza or not, but Jewish members of the Jewish community have been targeted in the Western world. So that is an indicator that at least there is an element of awareness. And in the long run, the apartheid state is going to lose its main support in the Europe and in the USA. It is a simply matter of time. And in the long run, I don't think the Arab countries would be able to suppress the voices of the people. This spring, this resistance that we have seen in Syria, I think that is going to spill over to the Arab countries. They know that this is going to happen. It is a matter of time. But right now, the Arab countries are basically trying to create optics whereby they're sending message to the West that they are supporting the new government in the Damascus. Reason being is that they have to basically counter Iranian influence in the region. So that is why we have seen that there have been frequency of meetings among the leaders of the Arab world and those with the new leaders in the Damascus. So again, but behind the scene, I think the Arab leaders are deeply worried, and they are waiting that when there will be their next turn. I think this is a matter of time, particularly in Egypt, because the things over there are not so good as the President Sisi would like us to believe in. So in a broader picture, my understanding is that this situation in the Middle East is not tenable. It is a matter of time when the tables would be turned.
The Turkish peace diplomacy and President Erdogan's stance on the Palestinian cause have received widespread applaud. In the last few weeks, we've seen Syria emerging from years of dictatorship. Now, what needs to be done by both Arab and regional countries to bring lasting peace in Gaza and the immediate region?
Well, I think as we speak, apartheid state has pursued very effectively a policy that there is going to be one state of apartheid Israel. There won't be any other state in the occupied Palestinian territory. I think that agenda needs to be countered very effectively. The European countries, they want a two-state solution. Even largely within the policymakers in Washington, they want a two-state solution. But practically, they have vetoed every resolution which talks about every resolution in the UN Security Council which talks about the two-state solution. So in that context, I think now under President Donald Trump, after January 20th, I think there is going to be revival of so-called Ibrahim Accord, whereby USA is going to pressurize the Muslim countries like Saudi Arabia, like Pakistan, to normalize ties with the apartheid state and accepting the reality that Israel would continue to commit genocide of Palestinians. I think this is where the Turkey's role is important. With the change of guard in Damascus, I think at this particular point of time, things are not clear. Damascus has been under criticism that it has blocked whatever the little support that Palestinian had in the past, because there have been a supply route from Iran to Iraq, Iraq to Syria, and Syria to Lebanon, and from there Hezbollah was carrying out these attacks. But nonetheless, the ceasefire has already taken place, but situation has changed. We can understand logically that Syria right now is not in a position to militarily to support the Palestinian cause, but so far Syria has not come out with a diplomatic statement, creating a political posturing that they support Palestinian cause, though they would not support any militant group inside occupied Palestinian territory. I think that is where something is seriously lacking in the Damascus, because the optics on the Palestinian issue are not so positive. So far as President Tayyip Erdogan's role is concerned, as I explained earlier on, that the other Muslim countries have not been able to support some of the proposals of the President Tayyip Erdogan. And I think had those proposals been accepted, I think in unison, a lot could have been done without any military response to the genocide in occupied Gaza. There could have been a trade bloc. That did not happen because there is a lack of unity among the Muslim countries. And the reason being, we know it historically, these all Arab states were created out of the Turkey under Ottoman Empire to keep Muslims disunited. Let's give the devil due credit. That is where literally the West has managed to keep Muslim countries disunited, despite the fact that the people all over the Muslim world, that they feel that they are part of a one Muslim nation. And that is why we are seeing protests in Turkey, one after the other, and also in many other countries like in Pakistan, though there have not been frequent similar protests in countries like Jordan, because there is a dictatorship. And Turkey is the only country in the Middle East which I believe is a democratic state. Israel is not the only democracy. That is a myth. This is the myth that the Israel has created. It is an effectively apartheid state. There are more than 20 apartheid laws whereby systematically Palestinian Muslims are being discriminated on the basis of ethnicity, on the basis of religion. So in that broader picture, I believe that Turkey is the only democracy in the Middle East, unlike the projection that we hear from the Western countries, unlike the projection that Israel has been propagating, that it is the only democracy in the Middle East. That's not true. You are committing genocide of half of your population under your occupation. And you are saying that you are the only democracy. You are not giving them a voting rights. You discriminate them every checkpost. You discriminate at every academic institution. At every level they are discriminated. Their right to survive and live has been effectively snatched away. Every next day, their territories is being occupied in West Bank and in other parts of the occupied Palestine. And yet, Israel projects itself as it's the only democracy and surrounded by the countries which are run by the dictatorship. So these are the nonsensical propaganda that we have time and again heard. Israel has been committing a Holocaust, but the reason is there are not the media cells that the Muslim countries have, where it can portray the reality of what Western media has propagated on when the Jewish were killed, and genuinely they were killed, and there was a Holocaust. There's no doubt about it. 6 million Jews were killed, but it never meant that there will be revenge will be taken from the Muslims from the Palestine. Again, in a broader picture, I think the only silver lining right now as we speak, the situation is not so good, but at the same time, there is a sense of relief that the people on the streets in the Muslim countries, with particular focus in Turkey, that they are showing their resilience, no matter in what form. It is in a democratic country. It has to be in form of the protest. That is the decent way of doing it. But again, the state to which the people are trying to send message, it is a deaf and dumb. They don't understand the language of the decency. Israel only listens the language of military deterrence. And Muslim countries have the military deterrence. They don't have the will to strike.
Javed Rana, thank you for your analysis and thank you for joining News Hour.
The growing tide of anti-Israel sentiments. What you see behind me is just tip of the iceberg of what is happening in the country. more than half of $52 billion black CIA budget is spent on espionage network in Pakistan. How would you handle it?
The US has looked upon Pakistan as an ally at one point and then as an enemy at the same time.
That is going to be the first legal reason on the basis of which he is going to be instantly ousted by the Supreme Court of Pakistan.
Joining us live, Javed Rana, who's an expert on politics and geo-strategic issues.
In the world politics, which is not being driven by any moral principle, it is being driven by the hard geo-strategic realities. In a broader picture, more countries would aspire to have nuclear weapons.